What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now, as you can see behind me, we got the 3rd gen Toyota Tacoma, and today we're going to be upgrading the stereo. Now, I know in the past we upgraded the door speakers, the dashboard tweeters, and the rear door speakers, and today we're going to do an amplifier, a sound processor, and last but not least, a subwoofer. And I can't wait to show you guys how it's done. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start the installation. Okay, today's a big day for the 3rd gen Tacoma access cab. We're going to go ahead and install an amplifier and subwoofer inside the cabin here. So right here we have a JL Audio 5-channel amp. We have an audio control LC7i. So first things we need to do is basically plan where we're going to install this stuff. So I have an idea right now. So as you can see how large this amp is and how long it is, I'm going to plan on putting it under the driver's seat. So I'm going to do a test fitment on the driver's seat and show you. So basically I'm going to just take the amp, I'm going to push it underneath. Basically it fits on there pretty good. It's a snug fit, but it works. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you guys a comparison on the passenger seat, and there is some obstacles underneath the seat which won't allow me to install an amplifier. Now you can see the size differences between the LC7i and the 5-channel amplifier. It's about 2.5 times the size right there. So this thing slides real easy underneath the seat. Plenty of room. But passenger seat is a whole different ball game. Let me show you guys. Now it's a little tricky to see underneath the passenger seat here. I'm on the floor. Now there's a metal bar that's underneath this passenger seat. The driver's seat doesn't have it, but passenger seat has it for whatever reason. So let me go ahead and show you guys a test fitment of the amplifier. So if I try to slide the amplifier underneath the passenger seat, it's hitting that metal bar. So that's a big no-no for putting the amplifier underneath the passenger seat. Now we take this LC7i, which is actually shorter than the amplifier. The thing will glide underneath that seat right there. No obstruction whatsoever. So passenger seat's going to have the LC7i, driver's seat's going to have the amplifier. So first step of the process, installing the amplifier, the audio control LC7i, plus the rear subwoofer, is we're going to go ahead and remove the driver's seat and the passenger seat. In addition, we're going to take up the carpet. And we also need to take off the sill plates as well, because that locks the carpet in place. And then we're going to come over here to the radio, and I'm going to carefully pry this plastic trim off with some plastic pry tools. And there should be 4 10mm bolts holding this radio in position. That way we can take the radio out and get access to the connectors. Because basically I bought some plug and play harnesses for the speaker wires along with the remote turn-ons. There's actually a specialty Toyota truck audio place down in Texas that actually sells these things, so that was very important in my decision of what to do for the installation on this truck, because I'm not a fan of cutting into wires and whatnot. And then we're gonna have to go ahead, pop the hood, and get access to the engine compartment, or run a power cable from the battery over to the inside of the truck. So I'm gonna show you guys how to do this, so let's go ahead and start some disassembly. Okay, seats are now removed. Now before I go ahead and remove the carpet, I'm gonna go ahead and make the template from my amplifier and the audio control. So what I did is I put a bunch of blue painter's tape here on the carpet. So what I did here is took some painter's tape and basically laid it out on this area where the amplifier is gonna go. I'm gonna do the same thing for the passenger side where the audio control is gonna be placed at. But anyhow, I'm gonna go ahead, take a Sharpie, I'm gonna outline where I wanna make this template at. Now, there's actually 2 mounting hole positions. There's actually a seat bolt and the seat pin. I'm actually aiming for the pin right now. I might change my mind later, but anyhow, I'm gonna take a Sharpie. I'm gonna outline where I want this template to be. So basically, I'm just gonna curve over here. I'm gonna taper on the inside so you don't see it when you open up the door. So there's a little hump right there. So this surface is flat. So this is the ideal position to where to put the amplifier. So once I take the Sharpie, I'm gonna go ahead, carefully peel this up off the carpet, transfer it over to the plastic that we have, which is 1/4 inch sheet plastic. I'm going to take my jigsaw with a hacksaw blade, and we're going to carefully cut out this template, and then we'll have an amp mounting rack for the underside of the seat. Otherwise, this amplifier is just going to be shifting left and right and whatnot, and you don't want to drill straight to the body of this truck. That's a big no-no. So this is the proper way to do it. I've seen other people do this method, so we're going to give this a shot. So I'm going to go ahead, take the Sharpie, trace this thing out, and I'm going to carefully peel this thing, transfer it over, and we'll go ahead and cut that template out. Okay, went ahead and took my masking template and transferred it over to this 1/4-inch sheet of plastic. And then I went ahead and drilled the holes for all the seat mounts right there. So there's the front right there, along with the pin. And there's the other front pin, and there's a seat bolt. I indicated direction. This is the front side, and actually made some marks of where the amp's going to be right here on the corners. So now that I got the holes drilled, I'm going to go ahead and take my jigsaw with a hacksaw blade, and I'm going to carefully cut this template out. And then we'll go in the truck with a heat gun, and we'll actually conform this thing to the contours of the floor with some light heat. So let's go ahead and cut this thing out. Okay, driver's side mounting plate for the amplifier is now complete. Went ahead and cut this thing out, sand the sides down, and the longest part is basically forming this thing to the floor. So just go ahead, use some aluminum foil to block some of the heat. So I do wave my heat gun in certain places, push down with my hammer, and make sure you wear some thermal gloves because you need to get this plastic nice and hot. So 30 minutes on this side. Passenger side was a little bit quicker since I knew what I was doing. Let me show you what's going on over there. Okay, passenger side was the second piece I did. I'm a little bit more happier with how this one turned out. But anyways, nice and clean right here. Make sure the pins of the seats line up on these holes. I actually need to really drill that hole right there. Now my suggestion is when you start with this plastic piece, go ahead and put the bolts on the back of the seat right there, and then you start doing the heat gun and forming this thing to the floor. So once you have the back bolts in place and you start pushing down with the heat right here to make that form, work your way to the front right there, make sure you got some aluminum foil around the carpet so you don't melt the carpet. And then go ahead and start pushing down with a hammer, but make sure you got the gloves on because this thing is hot. But anyways, now this plate is ready to go. So I'm gonna go ahead, make sure the holes line up for the seat right here, the mounting pins at least, and then we can go ahead and put the audio control right there. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna run all the wires through this hole in the carpet right here, because usually what I would do is I actually drill holes on the bottom right here and run the wires underneath, but since I got access hole and you're not gonna see this thing, so my theory here is if I ever remove this audio equipment, I don't ever wanna see any traces that there was an audio install in this truck. So that's basically the reasoning behind these plates right here. Otherwise, you're gonna be drilling a hole through the frame and whatnot. That's just a no-no. Okay, so let me go ahead and drill those 2 holes, and then we'll go ahead and remove the center console. Okay, day 2 of the Amplifier audio control and subwoofer installation. This has taken longer than expected. So yesterday I took my time removing the seats, removing the center console, and then making those custom mounting plates, which took quite some time. But anyhow, now I'm on the wiring stages. Let me show you what's going on. So I've got the factory radio removed. There's basically a plastic trim panel around the factory radio, and you carefully pry that with a plastic trim tool, and that'll expose 4 10mm bolts. And there's a lot of wiring harnesses that need to be unplugged from the radio. So now I'm in the process of pulling wires through the dashboard, and how I'm doing that is I'm actually using a wire coat hanger right there, and I straightened it out. And so I'm going from the underside right there. There's my coat hanger, as you can see. So I had to get a flashlight from the top right here, find where the coat hanger's popping through, reach in and pull it out, because there are some tight tolerances inside this dashboard, so it's not really open down below. So basically I'm going to try and pull 2 wires at the same time right here. So the first wire is going to be a 12-volt constant and a remote amp turn on, and that's this T-harness right here. I bought this from Taco Tunes, and they make custom harnesses so you don't have to cut any wires on your factory radio. And the second set of wires right here, I actually put this in a loom itself, and this is what the connector looks like right here. So basically this is going to be the source that's going to be feeding the audio control right here. Otherwise you're going to need a line output converter. So this is basically a straight source instead of using a line output converter, because we're going to get all the signals, and then this will plug into the audio control. And the audio control is going on the passenger side right here on this plate. So I got both wires heavily taped up with some electrical tape, and I'm going to go on the underside right here and carefully pull this thing through, and hopefully I can get both wires pulled out. So that's basically how I'm getting the wires pulled from the dashboard down to the console area. So I'm going to have to do the same thing on the left-hand side right here. So I believe there's an opening right here. I'm going to get my coat hanger, pop right through. So I'm going to reach in, grab the coat hanger, pull it through, and then go ahead, take my cables, wrap it up with electrical tape, and carefully pull it back through. So with this side on the left-hand side, basically that's going to be the amplifier side. And basically there's going to be another set of wires, and that's what the harness looks like right there. And that'll plug into the harness on the back side behind the dashboard. Because what we're doing is we went ahead and unplugged the speaker wires from the back side of the radio. Now there's going to be a harness that connects to the radio and actually goes down the dashboard, which is this one, and that feeds the audio control. And then the audio control is going to give the signal to the amplifier, so we got to branch some wires across over the console right here and connect to the amplifier. And then the amplifier then connects to this wire, which is plug and play by the way. And then we feed that back up into the dashboard, and that plugs into the factory harness, which then feeds all the speakers in the truck. So that's basically the idea of how I'm going to feed this stereo right here. So let's go ahead, pull some more wires, and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so the subwoofer enclosure we'll be installing will actually fit right between the jump seats, and it'll actually replace this little plastic console right here. So what we need to do is go ahead and get this thing removed. So just take your flathead screwdriver, and there's basically a notch right there on the rubber pad right there, and just carefully pry up on this rubber pad, and it should peel up. And there we have it. 2 10mm bolts. Go ahead, undo those 2 10mm bolts, and this assembly should lift off. I guess we'll find out once I do this. Alright, now this part most people might dread on audio installs. It's basically run the power wire from the battery into the cab of the vehicle, in this case the truck. Let me show you what's going on. So obviously we need to have the amplifier power cable connected to the battery, and it's going to flow down into a grommet, and that grommet is right here. So basically that's the main wiring harness from the vehicle into the engine bay, and you don't want to damage this wiring harness. That can be big money for repair. So let's go on the inside and I'm going to show you what's going on. Okay, so I've got the kick panel plastic removed. That helps me pull back the carpet a little bit. Now it's a little tough to see, and my truck's a manual transmission, so I got the clutch pedal here, and you have the clutch safety switch right there in front of the main grommet. So if I pull back this insulation, this rubber boot right here, my finger's pointing at, that's the surround of the main harness. And the main harness is in the center of this. So I'm gonna carefully take a razor and just make a small slice right there in the very bottom. Just being careful, not like I nick any wires. And then I can go ahead and take my power wire and pull it through. But first what I need to do is go ahead and take my straightened coat hanger and just pop it through, and I'll pull it through the engine bay, tape up the power wire, and pull it back through. So that's basically how I'm gonna route the power wire from the engine bay into the cab of the truck. So let me go ahead and take care of that. Okay, this step seemed to occupy most of my time, just trying to figure out how I'm gonna route the power cable and the battery. Now I was going to take the power wire and route it this way, but it was too close to the engine right here. I want to keep the heat away. So I went ahead towards the fender right here, and here's the connection. And here's what the finished result looks like. I tried to make it as neat as I could. Let me pull up on this and show you how it's connected. So essentially you'll take this 12mm nut off, and then you take your new eyelet with your power wire, put that on the post right there, and make sure your factory wire is on there obviously, and then tighten this back down, 12mm nut. And then we'll go ahead and put this rubber cover back in position as best we can. Okay, that's not too bad. You don't have to do any cutting right here. There's already a slot right there. So basically it's routed right beside the battery and going down right there in the cavity. And it's following along the fender. And then basically this right here is where my fuse is at. So I took some double-sided tape by Gorilla and made the connection. And then it goes back into the firewall grommet right there. So essentially, that's how I ran my power cable into the truck. Let me show you what's inside. All right, the inside is gonna be a little tough to see right here. But basically, here's the wire right here that's coming through the firewall. It actually flows right behind the main wiring harness right there. And I've got the power wire covering this special wire sleeve in. I'll show you that later. And as you can see, the power wire flows to the left side of the footrest styrofoam piece. Goes along the cavity right here. I undid this clip, put it through the factory wire loom location. Same thing here. It's in the factory wire loom location. And then it starts to make the transition underneath the carpet towards underneath the driver's seat. So it essentially flows under the carpet just like this. And here's our power wire right here. Now here's a close-up look of the wire loom that I'm using. Now if you don't melt this end right here, it actually fray up. So whenever you work with this stuff, you want to go ahead and melt the ends. It will make a nice transition. And I did the same thing on all the speaker wire connections right here using this special wire loom. So this is what this stuff looks like. I guess it's the new technology of wire loom management right here, instead of using the split wire loom that's plastic and rigid. Okay, now I do have the negative battery post unhooked right here. I'm gonna leave that unhooked until we have all the connections done on the radio itself and the amplifier and the audio control. So this will be the last step, so I'm gonna leave the hood open here. Alrighty guys, sadly, that's all the time I got left for today's episode. Now keep in mind, I've been working on this truck for a day and a half now. Got the interior all taken apart along with the dashboard. And we also got the mounting plates completed for the amplifier and the sound processor. And I hope you guys can join us for the next episode where we button things up, take that key, turn it, and hopefully that thing just comes to life. And I can't wait to show you guys. Anyhow, if you guys got any specific questions so far on the installation process, please feel free to comment below and I'll do my best to answer all questions. And if you found this video helpful or entertaining, please give me a thumbs up. Thanks for watching and have a fantastic day.